Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
All right, let's move on to the reviews. So we have gotten in 4 juices from Rebel Revolution. Last week we reviewed, what was it, Viet Cong and Iron Lady. Of course, Richard said that if he had to buy one of those again, he'll probably go for Viet Cong. And if between those two, I said I definitely go for Iron Lady. This week we're talking about Flower Power and Gupta's Frozen Assets. Yeah, that's the Flower Power. I love that stuff. Frozen Assets, yeah. So let's talk about Frozen Assets. Now, this is obviously just an icy version of Gupta's Coupe, right? Gupta's Coupe that was originally released by a Rebel Revolution didn't have any iciness to it. But because it's a 3-fruit recipe, I'm sure if at that time it wasn't, we were playing with colada and we were playing with menthols, to create iciness. And WS23 wasn't a thing that was very popular. It's certainly not in my circles, okay? When WS23 came on to, and I'm not sure if that is what he's using here, but when it came onto play, this would be, for me, that would be the ideal thing to mix, Gupta's Coupe with, because it doesn't distract so heavily from the main profile here, okay? As with Gupta's Coupe, the kiwi and strawberry blend well together. That's the earthiness of both the kiwi and the strawberry. They blend well to give you something new, but the grape kind of sits on the sides, and you can taste it the whole way through. So it's the grape and the strawberry kind of blends, but the grape is more on the sides, and it just feels like it. You're getting it all the way through, especially on the exhale, right? So in that way, you can say, what I'm saying here is also, if you compare this with Gupta's Coupe, it felt like the grape was a little bit more out there. It might be the coolant that's used here that pulls that grape slightly back. I'm not sure, but it just feels like there's a little bit less grape, that I can taste here. But I've also been whacking myself with grape, with 2 recipes that I'm trying to build myself. So, I might just, that taste profile might just be numbed out this week specifically. So yeah, for me, I felt that the grape was toned down a little bit if you compare it to Gupta's Coupe. But the grape also and the strawberry kind of blend nicely together. This is pretty good. I liked it. I'm a big fan of fruity, sweet and icy vapes, and this is something that I could vape. But I felt it a little bit harsh, slightly harsh. Nice little throat hit there for people that like that, but definitely not unpleasant at all.
Yeah, my view on this, I'm not at all a menthol vapor. I very rarely vape it. So it's not really my type of profile, but I did enjoy this one because it gives me a 3-stage vape. On the inhale, what I'm getting is almost like a generic green flavored fruitiness at the end of the inhale. At the start of the exhale, the menthol kicks in quite strongly, and that's the dominant flavor. And then the longer the exhale goes on, the more the grape comes to the fore. And that's, again, my takeaway, just like the chocolate is my takeaway in Moped's Eula, the grape is my takeaway in this. That is the flavour that stays on my palate once I've finished the vape. But it's quite interesting because to get those three very distinct phases on the inhale and exhale is quite intriguing. It's a juice that I had to vape quite a bit just to get a handle on the whole sort of sensation that it was giving. The menthol isn't overdone for me. There are some menthol juices where it just kills everything. That fruitiness is still coming through for me on this. The grape at the end is still coming through. So again, as I said with the last reviews for him, what I'm looking for from a 3-fruit mix is something that's more than the sum of the parts. And certainly on the inhale, that's what I'm getting from this, that sort of generic greenness, which is not identifiably grape, nor kiwi, nor strawberry. It's kind of all three, mixing into something that is more than the sum of all three. Then the menthol, then that lingering grape on the exhale. But this works quite well for me, and if you're into menthol fruity vapes, I would recommend this.
So you also think that that kiwi and the strawberry, it creates something. Like you say, you describe it as a chewy, greeny candy, right? And then the grape is quite separate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's traditionally grape and strawberry. If you look at pairing the correct ones, they will combine, they will blend. And this mix specifically, just at the end part of that green kiwi earthy flavor, you start experiencing the grape, and then it's literally just grape. You know what I mean? All the way through. So then, now, I was quite surprised by this one here. Flower power. Okay. I feel that the use of menthol in this mix is totally apt because, I think hippies will prefer menthol over WS-23. I mean, this is what I think, but it's a total menthol vape. The mix is slightly lychee forward, okay? But the mix keeps me guessing. This is a good thing for me. I feel that this transcends for me because that's that guessing work that I'm doing here, because I can taste the lychee, but then there's something else that, just comes onto my palate, and I can't quite identify what is it now, So there's definitely something that transcends there for me. So it is lychee, strawberry, and dragon fruit. And that dragon fruit and strawberry, of course, it creates something else. It's something new and exotic. And the lychee just blasts through because it sits right at the top. It definitely is a little bit more lychee forward. This is not a heavy mix, but also not super light. It's nice and sweet. I enjoy it. I think this is a success for me. To be honest with you, if I had Iron Lady and Flower Power in front of me for personal taste, I'd probably struggle to figure out which one I would take between the two. This was a really good success for me.
I enjoy this mix as well, primarily because it uses lychee in a way that downplays the floral aspect of lychee. I quite enjoy lychees in real life, but in vaping I found that it too often turns perfumey and chemical and floral. So what he's done is he's balanced quite nicely here, and I suspect he's used the EM in the strawberry as well as the emulsifying properties of the dragon fruit to just knock that chemical edge off the lychee and just allow it to peek through, but stripped of all that sort of chemical pungency that lychee often contains. I was a bit startled by the menthol at first because I would expect any juice that contains menthol to mention it, because it's the type of thing that you either go for or or you don't. And for those who don't, I think would like some sort of advance warning that there is menthol in the juice. So I was a bit, because when I first dripped it, I thought, oh, I've dripped the Gupta by mistake, because that was only one of the 4 that had menthol in the description.
Mm.
So I tasted this menthol blast, and I thought, am I going crazy? Have I swapped the bottles around and I've dripped the wrong juice? But then I dripped it again, and I realized, no, it's got menthol in, which is maybe part of that helping the lychee to stand out. But it just, it was surprising for me. What I found about this, in addition to the notes that you had, I found this to be quite dry, particularly on the exhale. That lychee does linger, very very similar to the grape in the Gupta. The lychee sort of lingers long into the exhale, but towards the end of the exhale, I get a dry, almost powdery feel from it. This is a recipe that I would say is moist rather than juicy. I mean, it's not dry, not dry, but compared to some of his other stuff, I found it is a little bit drier. It's less of a juicy candy, more of just a moist type of mix.
Yeah, the sweetness in here triggers my when I say juicy, I'm looking for something that triggers my saliva, and that for me is a juicy vape. And the sweetness in here does do that. Let me just check. Yeah, but only afterwards. Now that you mention it, you're right. As you're vaping it, it comes off a little bit dry, and then, as soon as the sweetness and the menthol kicks in, you get that juicy experience at the end. But definitely not on the exhale. I don't know if that's a thing, if you can separate them like that. But, I don't think this is definitely not too dry.
For me, this would have worked as the Viet Cong, the flavor profile, because that mix of lychee and menthol says for me more oriental than the actual Viet Cong juice was. That dragon raspberry kiwi for me would have been more flower power. Because I can see that warm syrupy raspberry being a thing with hippies as well. So I would probably swap those two around. I'd have the flower power as the Viet Cong and vice versa, because this flower power to me says oriental quite well. It's got that whole sort of East Asia vibe to it. But these are two good juices. I enjoyed them both, even though menthol isn't my thing. I don't feel it was overdone in either one.
But there's 2 different coolants used here, right? It's not the same coolant.
No.
Yeah, it's the flower power for me is a menthol coolant, and the frozen acids for me is like a WS23 or maybe very low colada, so that you don't get funny off notes from it. But it's definitely not the same menthol here.
Yeah, although I'm getting a strong menthol note from the Gupta.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't get that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's colder. It's colder than the flower power for sure. But I'm still getting that menthol kick from it. I mean, he describes it as menthol fruits skating on thin ice. So it's maybe a menthol plus a coolant.
Maybe.
With it.
Yeah, maybe. All right, guys. So yeah, please go ahead and, if you have these, because I know these are not the latest releases from Rebel Revolution. If you've tried these, or if you've got questions around them, please go ahead and comment in the comment section below, and we'll get to you. I'm sure even Kobus will get to you. I just want to thank him a lot for sending these juices through. Had tons of fun reviewing them, and I'm going to have tons of fun finishing them as well.
Yes, thank you for the juices. Most appreciated.
Cool. That wraps up the show.